There's no such thing as sight reading. And I was in drumline in high school for 3 years. I played the bass drum. Back in the 80s, woodwind exposure was not a thing yet, so all the high school marching bands were just trying to sound like drum and bugle corps. And so they were always trying to find places to hide as many of the woodwind players as they could, and drumline was one of the options. And so also, the drumline was seen among the student population as being a little bit more cool than your normal band students. And so I figured out, I was a teenage idiot, and I figured that would maybe improve my social status a little bit in the high school. And so that's where I ended up, was in drumline. And probably half, maybe more than half of our drumline was woodwind players. All the bass drums were woodwind players. All the keyboard players were woodwind players. All the cymbals were woodwind players. Some of the quads were woodwind players. And we did not know how to play the drums. And we would go to the drumline rehearsals, and they went all summer, and they took forever. And it was all total rote muscle memory. Right? We'd play the first measure. Dot, dot, digga, digga, dot, dot. And we do it again. Dot, dot, digga, digga, dot, dot. And we do that 50 times. And then we move on to the second measure. Dot, 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 digga, dot. And we do that 50 times. Dot, 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 digga, dot. And then we go back and we put those two measures together. Dot, dot, digga, digga, dot, 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 digga, dot. And we do that 50 times. And 8 hours later, we could play 8 measures at half tempo. But by the end of the summer, when it was time for our first performance, if you came and heard our drumline play, you would not be able to tell who the woodwind players were and who the real drummers were, unless you ask us to play something else. If you ask us to play anything other than those 4 songs, you'd know right quick who the woodwind players were, because we did not know how to play the drums. We didn't know how to hold a drumstick. We didn't know how to read a part. We didn't know any fundamentals. Our drum part was just the little marching paper with the rhythm written on it, right? We couldn't put a drum head on. We didn't know how to play the drums. It was complete rote muscle memory, and it was miserable. I did everything I could do to get kicked out. Anytime they'd say, if you're late rehearsal, you're out of the line, I'd go, and they'd say, well, except for Dooley. Right? And so I did everything I could do to get kicked out of there. It didn't matter. And then the next year, because we didn't know how to play the drums, we had to completely start over again. And back then, teenage idiot, I didn't think this was abnormal, because that's how I thought back then that you learned to play a musical instrument. But looking back now, I always and often wonder if maybe it would have been more efficient, and maybe it would have saved some time to actually teach us how to play our drums and to read the drum part and learn the fundamentals, and then we could practice it on our own. Then we wouldn't be completely starting over every season, and then we'd have a skill that we could take with us. Now, lots of student musicians practice their primary instrument just in the way that I just described. And it's miserable. There's a better way. My name's Mark Dooley. I've been a private music teacher for 36 years, focused on practical theory and music literacy. If you'd like to hear more, follow me. If you'd like lessons, contact me. And if you can learn how to read words, you can learn how to read music.